This happened about a year ago. I was 32 and driving long-haul trucks. It was just a job trying to support my family. I don't think I have ever stopped thinking about that night. I was on my regular route when the strange stuff began. The road stretched ahead of me, bordered by woods. The hum of the engine filled the silence. Suddenly, my radio crackled. I heard static, then a voice. It called my name. I shook my head, thinking it was just lack of sleep. It sent a chill down my spine. I glanced out the window, searching the darkness for something I couldn't name. I thought I saw a shadow move among the trees, but told myself it was nothing. I was alone on the road, but it felt like someone was watching. The next nights were worse. Moving through the trees, I saw something again. My heart raced. It looked like a figure, but when I blinked, it was gone. I tried to ignore it, but I took wrong turns on the highway. It was like the road twisted away from me, leading me further from home every time I tried to turn back. I started finding messages on my dashboard. "Help me," one said, written in dust or something darker. I felt cold all over. I gripped the steering wheel tightly. I didn't want to stop, I just wanted to keep driving. Yet the whispers in the wind felt louder each time. I thought I was losing it. But then, I heard that voice again, calling my name through the radio. The fear curled around me. I pressed hard on the gas, wanting to outrun whatever this was. But deep down, I felt I had to confront it. One night I parked at a rest stop. The air felt thick. I went to use the bathroom, feeling that knot in my stomach. When I came back, I thought I saw that figure again, standing by my truck. I opened my mouth to yell, but nothing came out. I asked if he was okay. Silence answered me. Then he asked, "Why are you with her?" I turned around, but there was nobody. My heart raced. Just the empty rest stop and the cool night air. I panicked. I started the truck, fast. My eyes darted around, searching for the figure. It was like I couldn't breathe. I drove for hours, barely remembering the road. That voice echoed in my ears. I could almost see him in the trees. Sometimes it felt like he was right beside me, whispering secrets I couldn't understand. Each turn away from home made the road feel even longer. Finally, I reached a point where the darkness felt suffocating. I thought I saw headlights in my mirror. I looked back, but each time, nothing was there. The fear was a weight in my chest. What was happening to me? Was I really alone out there? Now I passed that same stretch of highway. The memories still haunt me. Every time I drive at night, I wonder if I'll hear that voice again. I don't know what's real anymore. I just keep moving. The weeks dragged on, and my nights on the road slipped into a routine of dread. I started to avoid my usual routes, taking longer, unfamiliar highways just to escape that creeping feeling. But it always found me, lurking in the shadows of my mind. I had become used to hearing the radio crackle, always expecting that voice. One night I pulled over at a small diner I'd driven by many times but never stopped at. The neon sign flickered feebly. The place looked empty, but I needed coffee to stay awake. As I walked in, an unsettling silence wrapped around me. The waitress, an older woman with tired eyes, offered me a weak smile as I sat down. "Long night?" she asked, pouring me a cup. I nodded, glancing around. The diner was cluttered with old photographs and faded newspaper clippings on the walls. My gaze caught on one, a yellowed article tucked behind a frame. The headline read, "Local boy disappeared near Highway 27. "Do you know what happened?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She frowned, her expression darkening. "No one really knows, just vanished one night. Lots of strange things happen on that stretch of road." Her voice lowered, as if she was afraid to say more. I felt my heart beat faster. I mentioned the figure I'd seen. Her eyes widened and she leaned closer. "You've seen him?" "Who?" "The boy. Some say he's out there trying to find his way home. Others hear him at night calling for help." Before I could respond, the diner door swung open, jolting me. A figure stood there. I froze. It was a young man, clothes torn, dirt smeared across his face. He looked right at me, then glanced around the diner, panic swirling in his eyes. "Help me!" he shouted, then disappeared as quickly as he had come, like he was never there. The waitress gasped. "What the hell?" I bolted outside, my heart racing. But the parking lot was empty, the road silent. Had I really seen him? Back inside, I asked the waitress, my voice quivering. "Did you see that?" She shook her head, fear etched on her face. "I didn't see anyone." I was shaking now. The last thread of control slipped away. I felt frantic, desperate to escape. I jumped into my truck and drove off, tires screeching. The radio blared static, then that voice broke through. "Help me." I slammed the volume down, my hands gripped tight on the wheel. The road twisted ahead like a snake. Panic seeped in. What if he really was out there? I drove faster, retracing my steps to familiar roads while the suffocating darkness closed in around me. Suddenly, a blinding light flashed behind me. I glanced in my mirror. Headlights were closing in, too close for comfort. I pressed down harder on the gas. But the lights didn't vanish. They grew brighter, almost overwhelming. Then everything went dark. I felt my heart stop. What had just happened? And who was chasing me? I blinked, trying to adjust. The darkness was complete. The engine sputtered, then died. "I'm not done yet," I whispered to myself. I had to know the truth. I wouldn't let fear win this time. But where was I? And what would happen next? I sat in the dark, heart racing. The engine was silent, but my mind screamed in the stillness. Had I crashed? I couldn't remember. The faint glow of my dashboard lights barely pushed back the darkness around me. I checked my surroundings, but there was nothing, just empty road swallowed by night. I banged my fists on the steering wheel in frustration. I wasn't the type to panic, but this whole situation was spiraling out of control. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. I needed to think. I unbuckled my seatbelt and opened the door. The cool night air was a relief, but it also sent chills down my spine. I stepped out, looking around. It felt like I was on the edge of nowhere. The only sounds were the rustling leaves and a faint whisper that chilled me. "Help me." I turned my head, searching for the source. Nothing. The road stretched on, empty and uninviting. But in the distance, I made out a faint light flickering. A building, a chance for answers, if not safety. I took off towards it, my boots crunching on gravel. As I walked closer, I realized it was an old gas station, half abandoned, but the neon sign still buzzed dimly. I hesitated before stepping inside. The door creaked as I pushed it open, a stark contrast to the stillness outside. The station looked deserted, dusty shelves lined with outdated snacks and coffee that had probably been there for years. A rusted cash register sat silently waiting for customers long gone. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" No response. Just echoes. Then I heard it again. The faint voice. "Help me." It was closer this time, almost pleading. I was sure of it. The hairs on my neck stood up. I followed the sound, creeping further into the dimly lit building. The shelves loomed above me like silent giants, casting strange shadows from the flickering light. I stepped carefully, my breath heavy in the silence. Suddenly I noticed a door at the back slightly ajar. It had a rusty handle that looked like it hadn't turned in years. I moved toward it, drawn by a mix of fear and curiosity. Just as I reached for the handle, I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. My heart jumped again. A shadow slipped past a window just outside the gas station. I squinted, trying to see. All I could make out was darkness. Then it dawned on me. What if it was him? The boy from the diner? I stepped back, suddenly aware that I was now the prey in whatever game this was. "Who's there?" I shouted, but deep down, I knew my voice was just a whisper in the darkness. The shadows remained silent. I gripped the handle, adrenaline coursing through me. Should I go through that door? What awaited me on the other side? I had to know. I twisted the handle slowly and pushed the door open. The hinges squeaked, breaking the silence. As I stepped inside, I realized it wasn't just a room. It was a small storage space filled with old tools, boxes, and papers strewn about on the floor. But that wasn't what caught my eye. Something glimmered in the corner, half hidden under a pile of paint cans. I could barely make it out in the dim light. What was it? That's when I saw it. Or rather, him. The figure was hunched over, his face obscured by shadows. I took a step closer, dread pooling in my stomach. The glimmer I had spotted was a piece of glass, jagged and sharp, lying beside him. All my instincts screamed at me to turn back. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He lifted his head slowly. Brown hair fell across his forehead, and his blue eyes were wide with fear. "Please help me," he pleaded, cutting through the haze of panic I felt. "What happened? How did you get here?" I started to step forward, but he flinched as if I were about to strike him. "No, you have to go. They're coming." His words were urgent, frantic. "What do you mean? Who's coming?" He leaned forward. "You don't understand. I saw—" A loud crash interrupted us, echoing from the front of the gas station. Both of us jumped. My heart raced. I glanced over my shoulder, fear creeping back in. "Stay here," I hissed. But as I turned to run back to the entrance, I caught sight of something moving outside. Shadows flickered in the darkness, figures moving quickly. I couldn't see them clearly, but I could feel their intent. I turned back to the boy. "We need to get out of here." I reached for him, but he shook his head violently. "No, you don't know what you're dealing with." "Then tell me." He opened his mouth, ready to explain, but the crash had morphed into frantic banging. Someone, or something, was trying to get in. "Please," he cried, panic lacing his voice. "You don't have much time." I glanced back toward the door. The banging grew louder, relentless. "What are you talking about?" Before he could answer, the door swung open, and a cold gust swept through the room. A silhouette filled the doorway, blocking the flickering light. I couldn't make out any features, just a hulking figure with an overwhelming aura. My body went cold. "Come out. Come out," it hissed, voice gravelly like stones grinding. I grabbed the boy's arm and we pushed past him, darting toward the back of the storage room. The figure lingered at the entrance, its shadow casting long and ghastly in the pale light. "Run!" I yelled, pulling the boy with me. He stumbled, looking back with wide eyes as if expecting something to leap out from the shadows. "No! They'll find you!" he cried, but I didn't slow down. I could hear footsteps approaching, heavy and deliberate. We reached the other side of the room, where a second door loomed before us, slightly ajar. I didn't want to know what was beyond it, but I could feel the pressure of whatever hunted us drawing closer. "Just a little further?" I urged, my heart thumping loudly in my ears, drowning out rational thought. As I flung open the door, we dashed outside into the starlit night. The gas station now seemed just as lifeless as the road I had been on. But in the shadows, there were figures creeping closer, their intentions unreadable. The boy turned to me, breathless. "You don't know what you've done." I froze, fear coiling around my throat. "What are you talking about?" Then everything went dark. I woke up to the sound of my own panicked breathing, a sharp gasp filling my lungs. Blinking against the darkness, it took me a second to remember where I was. The gas station had vanished. Instead, I was lying on a cold, hard surface. "Hello?" My voice trembled as I sat up, feeling disoriented. I was in what appeared to be an old storage room. Piles of dusty boxes towered around me like sentinels. Faint light filtered through a grimy window high above, revealing the remnants of the place. Only the shadows remained, watching. The boy was gone. Each heartbeat echoed in my ears. "Where are you?" I called out, but silence swallowed my words. No answer came, just the unsettling stillness of the room. Then I heard a noise, a faint rustling. I turned sharply, crouching lower instinctively. My instincts screamed that I wasn't alone. I edged toward the noise, forcing myself to breathe slowly, to steady my racing heart. The rustling grew louder, and then a figure stepped out from behind a stack of boxes. It was the boy, disheveled and pale, eyes wide like saucers, fear etched across his face. "Don't make any noise," he hissed urgently. "They'll hear you." "Who?" I asked, bewildered. "What's happening? Where are we?" He glanced back, bone-deep terror in his eyes. "I told you to leave. You shouldn't have come." As I opened my mouth to protest, a heavy thump shook the walls. I knew that sound. The hulking figure from the gas station had found us. "They're here," he whispered, trembling. Panic surged through me. I scanned the room, searching for a way out. The door we had come through was blocked, and the only exit was still the window. "We have to get out," I urged, trying to keep my voice steady. He shook his head. "It won't work. If you see them, you're done for." "See them? What do you mean?" I felt a swell of anger. His fear was almost contagious. I had to know. He swallowed hard, eyes darting around the room. "They're not just after me. They want anyone who gets too close, anyone who learns too much." A sudden noise from the door made us both freeze. A growl, inhuman and guttural, resonated through the heavy silence. My stomach turned. I could barely breathe. "What are they?" I whispered, forcing the words past my tightening throat. "I can't explain here." His voice trembled. "But you have to trust me. We need to hide now." Just as we ducked behind a pile of boxes, the door creaked open slowly. Shadows pooled at the threshold. An arm reached in, clawed fingers gripping the frame. "You can't hide forever," it rasped. The boy looked at me, eyes wide with fear as reality settled in. I had no idea what we were battling, but I had to figure it out quickly. Then I caught a glimpse of something at the corner of the room. That's when I saw it. A glint of silver peeking from beneath the boxes. A weapon? The figure lurked closer, and I felt the boy's grip tighten on my wrist. "You mustn't," he whispered urgently, but I was already moving. I had to take the risk. I dove for the silver glint, pushing aside dusty boxes, heart hammering in my chest. The weapon revealed itself. A rusty crowbar. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. I could feel the boy's anxious gaze on me, but I couldn't stop now. The creature creaked open the door wider, the shadows deepening. Its claws dug into the wood, splintering it under its grip. I gripped the crowbar tightly, the cold metal both a comfort and a reminder of the danger we were in. "Please, just stay quiet," the boy urged, his voice barely a whisper. I nodded, staying low as I shifted to the side. I could only see parts of the creature through the doorway. Long limbs, a misshapen head, and eyes that seemed to glow even in the dark. I couldn't see its face, but I sensed malice radiating from it. It stepped into the storage room, scanning the area. For a moment I thought it had sensed us. My throat tightened, and I held my breath, praying for it to turn away. Then it spoke again, its voice a gravelly hiss. "Where are you, little ones? You can't escape the night." The boy's hand gripped mine tighter. I knew we had to act, but part of me wanted to shrink back into the shadows. What if we were seen? "Now!" the boy urged suddenly, pulling me to my feet. We scrambled toward the back of the room, using the boxes as cover. I kept glancing back, terrified that the creature would spot us. I finally gathered the nerve to look out from behind the boxes, and that's when I noticed something that twisted my stomach. Almost out of reach, there was a second door ajar, leading deeper into the shadows. "Look," I whispered, pointing toward it. The boy's face paled. "No, we can't go there. It's worse in the dark." "Worse than that?" I said, raising my voice before thinking. The creature turned its head sharply, eyes locking onto me with an eerie light. "Run!" the boy yelled, pulling me toward the darker door. Just as I broke into a sprint, I could feel the chilling breath of the thing behind us. We darted for the door, narrowly slipping through as it snarled in frustration. I barely had time to register the stale air and old scents as we stumbled inside. The room was dimly lit, dust motes swirling uncomfortably in the air. Why are we hiding in here? I gasped, my heart thundering in my ears. I thought it would be safer, but... His voice trailed off as I saw what was illuminated in the corner. A series of ancient symbols etched into the walls, glowing faintly. Each one pulsed, as if alive. What are those? I asked, drawing closer. He shook his head, panic blurring his features. I don't know. Something's wrong. We shouldn't have come here. Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed from the main room. The creature was pounding on the door, desperate to get in. What does it want? I yelled, shaking with fear. I don't know. He looked even more frightened now. But we can't stay, we have to move. Just then I felt a surge of warmth radiating from the symbols. They seemed like an answer to whatever haunted this place. Maybe they could guide us. But as I started to explore closer, I realized how little time we had. The pounding grew deafening. We need to decide now, I said, heart racing. Do we use whatever this is to fight back, or do we find another way out? The choice loomed over us as the creature roared, sending chilling vibrations through the walls. I could feel its presence closing in on us. The moment hung in the air, thick with dread. I looked back at the symbols, glowing brightly now, as if aware of the chaos surrounding us. Each one seemed to pulse and sync with my quickening heartbeat. Were they offering safety, or just leading us deeper into danger? We can't just stay here, the boy insisted, glancing nervously at the door. It's only a matter of time before it gets in. Maybe we can use the symbols, I suggested, feeling a rush of hope mixed with fear. There's something about them. What if they can protect us? Or make it worse, he countered, shaking his head. We don't know what they mean. The creature roared again, this time with a primal rage that shook the room. The sound echoed off the walls, overwhelming me. I remembered the crowbar in my hand. It felt heavy, useless against whatever horror waited for us. Look, I said, if we can touch one of the symbols, maybe it'll do something. Are you crazy? His eyes widened in disbelief. What if it backfires? My heart raced with a mix of courage and desperation. We don't have options. It's either that or we get eaten. Before he could respond, I squeezed his hand and moved closer to the glowing symbols. I reached out, fingers brushing the surface of the nearest one. A jolt of energy shot through me, making my hair stand on end. It felt like I was connected to something ancient and powerful. Did you feel that? I asked, turning my head to see if the boy had followed. His expression was a mix of awe and worry. Yes, but, he began, when suddenly the air shifted. A low, whirring sound filled the space, making the symbols shimmer. What's happening? He shouted as a bright light erupted from the symbols, filling the room with an otherworldly glow. Then, the ground shook violently beneath us. The symbols flared with intensity, as if awake and angry. I stumbled back, narrowly avoiding losing my balance while the boy clutched the wall for support. As if in direct response to the light, the door we had entered through splintered with a deafening crack. The creature's furious hissing seeped into the room, mixing with the sounds of chaos around us. Get away from there, the boy called, dragging me back. We don't know what it's going to do, but it was too late. The symbols began to spin and pulse, casting strange shadows on the walls. The eerie light twisted into forms I couldn't comprehend. My chest felt tight, both from the fear of the creature and the overwhelming energy around us. Then, without warning, one of the symbols burst forth with a shockwave of energy. It enveloped us, a swirling burst of warmth mixed with dread. I gasped as the world tilted and everything turned white. I blinked, and suddenly we were no longer in the dark room anymore. Instead, the landscape around us was eerily familiar yet disorienting. We stood in front of an old, decaying mansion, one I recognized from my childhood nightmares. What just happened? The boy asked, eyes wide, looking around. Before I could answer, I realized the air was thick with a new kind of fear. The mansion loomed before us, its windows black as ink. And just like that, I knew the real nightmare had just begun. The mansion towered above us, its broken windows like empty eyes staring into the darkness. I felt a chill seep into my bones. I had always hated this place, even in my dreams. "Should we go inside?" the boy asked, glancing at me for reassurance. His voice was shaky, filled with uncertainty. I shook my head. "No way. We need to find a way back." But my own voice gave little comfort. I didn't know how we had ended up here, or how to escape. A faint rustling interrupted the silence. My heart raced as I turned to spot the source. The tall grass surrounding the mansion whispered in the wind, and for a moment, I could have sworn I saw a shadow dart between the trees. "Did you see that?" I whispered. "See what?" he asked, squinting into the distance. I thought I saw something move," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Before he could respond, the rustling intensified, like something large was making its way towards us. Panic shot through me. "We can't stay here," I urged, taking a step back. Just then a piercing scream shattered the night. The boy jumped, and I felt my chest tighten. It was a sound of pure terror. "Office?" I stammered. "What was that?" I don't know," he managed, his eyes wide with fear. I glanced back at the mansion. Its dark entrance beckoned us like an open mouth ready to swallow us whole. "We have to go inside," I said, more to convince myself than him. "Maybe there's a way out inside. We'll just look for a way back home." He hesitated, clearly torn. "If we go in there and get trapped, we're already trapped out here." My voice pierced the air, sounding much braver than I felt. With a reluctant nod, he followed me toward the door. The wood creaked eerily under our weight, as if protesting our entry into its cold embrace. Inside, the air was stale, weighted with dust. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting into grotesque shapes. I squinted to see, but the darkness seemed to swallow any flicker of light. "Do you have a flashlight?" I asked, hoping to pierce the gloom. "No," he replied, his voice barely audible. "I didn't think we'd need one." "We should stick close," I suggested. I moved forward, trying to steady my breath. Every creak of the floorboards sent chills down my spine. As we crept deeper into the mansion, I suddenly noticed a faint glow seeping from beneath a door at the end of the corridor. It pulsed rhythmically, calling to me. "Look over there," I whispered, pointing. The boy squinted. "Should we check it out?" Before I could answer, the piercing scream echoed again, much closer this time. "Maybe we should go back," he said, his voice shaky. "No. We can't leave without knowing what that is." An uneasy silence stretched between us as we approached the glowing door. I reached out, hand trembling, and grasped the cold knob. Taking a deep breath, I twisted it slowly. The door swung open, revealing a room flooded with light. But it was what stood in the center that made my blood run cold. There, surrounded by strange symbols, was a figure cloaked in shadows. It turned, revealing a face twisted with malice. "Welcome," it hissed, and my stomach dropped. In that instant, I realized we had stepped into the heart of the nightmare. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure grinned, its eyes glinting in the bright light. There was something unnatural about its presence, something that drew me in and terrified me at the same time. "Who are you?" I managed to croak, my voice unexpectedly steady, as if part of me was in denial. "Just a traveler like yourselves," it said, with a voice smooth like silk, yet laced with venom. "Lost in the dark. Travelers don't go around screaming," the boy piped up, his voice louder than mine, tinged with fear. The figure chuckled softly, the sound creeping up my spine. It gestured to the symbols swirling on the floor, glowing ominously. "Only the unwise wander here. Do you seek the answers to your nightmares?" I exchanged a glance with the boy. I felt like we were standing on the edge of a cliff, the ground beneath us beginning to tremble. "What do you mean?" I asked cautiously. "Do you not see?" It waved a hand and the symbols shifted, revealing brief flashes of images, faces twisted in fear, places that seemed achingly familiar, moments from my own life. "What is this?" I whispered, my feet feeling heavy. "Your past. Your unacknowledged fears." It smiled wider, revealing teeth too sharp for comfort. "You stepped into my domain, where your truths come to light." I felt sick. My knees threatened to buckle. "We just want to find our way back home," the boy said, his bravado slipping. "And what is home?" The figure leaned closer, its breath cold and foul. "A lie we tell ourselves to forget the truth." Before I could respond, a low rumble echoed through the room. The walls seemed to close in, and panic surged through me. "We need to get out of here," I yelled, turning to the boy. "Back where?" he shouted, eyes wide with desperation. The figure chuckled, dark amusement dancing in its gaze. "You cannot escape what you do not confront." With a sudden surge of courage, I lunged for the door. "Run!" I yelled, pulling the boy with me. We stumbled back through the threshold, the brightness of the room dimming as we retreated. I didn't stop until we hit the corridor. My lungs burned, and my heart raced. The shadow seemed to move, urging us to return. "That thing. What was it?" I gasped, struggling to catch my breath. "I don't want to know," he replied, shaking. "But we can't go back. We need to find another way out." I nodded, trying to process what had just happened. The fear had transformed into a sense of urgency. If that figure was telling the truth, we had more to face than just our surroundings. As we hurried down the corridor, I spotted another door. This one was slightly ajar, a hint of soft light spilling out. "Over there," I pointed. "Do you think it's safe?" he asked, eyes darting back toward the glowing room. I didn't know, but we had to try. "Now or never," I said, pushing the door open cautiously. The light spilled into the hallway, illuminating strange, shifting shapes. But just as we stepped inside, the door slammed behind us. The sound echoed through the space, enveloping us in shadows. Then everything went dark. I blinked against the oppressive blackness that surrounded me, heart racing, disoriented. The sensation of weightlessness lingered, and my ears rang with silence. I was unsure if I was still in the mansion or simply lost again in my nightmares. "Hello?" I called out tentatively. No response came, just the echo of my own voice fading into the dark. Suddenly, a soft light began to seep through the shadows. I squinted, feeling my pulse quicken as objects emerged. I was in a small, dimly lit room, cluttered with furniture covered in dusty sheets. Worn-out photographs adorned the walls, images of families smiling in happier times. What felt like old memories hung in the air, tainted by a sense of foreboding. I turned, hoping to find the boy beside me, but he was gone. Panic speared through me. "Hey, where are you?" I shouted, my hands trembling. "Can you hear me?" "For now," came a familiar whisper from somewhere in the dark. "You need to do what he said before they come. Before." "Who?" I stammered, feeling the walls close in as dread settled like lead in my stomach. "What do you mean?" "Confront them," the voice urged, twisted and muddied, echoing off the walls. It felt both comforting and unsettling at the same time. As if drawn by an invisible thread, my gaze landed on a large mirror sitting crookedly against the far wall, the glass still relatively clear compared to the rest of the room's wear. I stepped closer, captivated, but apprehensive. My reflection stared back at me, but with it brought a softer, ethereal apparition of the boy. He looked both terrified and determined. "Listen," he urged, now fully present through the mirror's surface. "Those things, the ones chasing us, are dark pieces of what we fear most. You have to accept them, not fight them. They're part of you." "Part of me? No, I won't believe that." My voice rose higher as frustration flared. How could that be true? I fought against these thoughts, pushing them down, but the shadows around me flickered like flames, hungry for my acceptance. "Fight all you want," the boy's visage replied, calm yet filled with urgency. "But you can't escape them forever. You'll have to confront what lies within." The tension in the air heated, and the light dimmed. With a shudder, I turned to see strange silhouettes dancing on the edge of perception, beyond the edges of the mirror. They lurked, shifting and whispering, shadows molded from my own fears. The past mistakes I had buried, the feelings of inadequacy that gnawed at my soul. "Face them!" the boy pleaded, his face becoming clearer. "You have the power to break this cycle." I felt the darkness press around me, suffocating. Should I try to fight? Could I break through this mysterious web? My heart pounded against my chest like a wild drum. Then, with a deep breath, I stepped back, gathering what little courage I had left. "Okay," I whispered, facing the mirror. "I accept everything that makes me afraid." The shadows surged forward, encircling me. I could almost feel them touching my skin. But as they did, something shifted inside me. The whirl of emotions radiated from me. The bad memories, the failures, and the burdens I carried, they mixed into a single pulse, connecting me to the boy in the mirror. "Now!" he urged, and I reached out to touch the glass. My fingers traced the surface where the darkness met my reflection. A tangible connection surged through me, like electricity grounding into realization. The moment I touched the mirror, an explosion of light filled the room. The shadows shrank away, the weight of my fears dissolving into sparkles that spun around the space like fireflies. I gasped as a warmth surged through my chest, an acceptance settling in. Then everything shifted, and I felt myself unbinding, layers peeling away. Familiar sounds crept back, the distant hum of the highway. I blinked again, feeling solid ground beneath me. I stood alone in my truck, parked beside the familiar stretch of road. The din of the engine filled the space like a comforting embrace, and behind me, the reflection of the boy lingered, smiling faintly before merging into the dashboard. But with that warmth came uncertainty. What had just happened? Was it a dream, or something real? There were no more shadows darting through the trees, no haunting whispers calling my name. Just the highway stretching ahead, dark and foreboding. I took a deep breath, relief washing over me, but the questions remained dancing on the edges of my mind. What would I do if those fears returned? Would I be able to recognize them the next time they came back? As I set the truck in motion, I glanced at the rearview mirror. It was empty, the road behind me swallowed by the night. But I knew, in some way, I was forever changed. And sometimes, late at night, I still hear whispers threaded through the wind, memories finding their way back to me. But now I drive on, knowing it's my choice not to let them haunt me.